Good morning and welcome to Willow School's morning gathering on Thursday, May 21st. This morning we are going to be talking about wisdom, which may not come as a surprise to you. I'm sure you've been talking about wisdom at home and during your school time for the last couple of weeks. I'm going to be reading you part of a poem, and I'm going to be reading it to you 3 times, once at the beginning, once in the middle, and once at the end. But as a way of beginning, I'm going to play some music for you. And rather than asking you as a mindfulness practice this morning to take 3 deep breaths, I'm going to ask you not to take 3 deep breaths. What I'm going to ask you to do is to listen to the music, listen to the sound current, and try to just observe your breath. The sound you will hear is a syllable repeated several times. I'll probably let it play maybe 3 times. You'll hear ocean sounds in the background, and you'll hear the syllable om, O-M. And om represents our highest soul self, maybe the ultimate reality, truth with a capital T. And a lot of people use that sound and that mantra as a way of tuning in to themselves, becoming more centered, becoming more present, becoming more aware. So as a way of doing that, and as a slightly different practice, perhaps than your normal morning gathering practice, I'm going to ask you just to observe your breath. Don't judge it. Don't try to change it necessarily. Just see where it is as you listen to the music and the sound. Notice how your breath feels to you in this moment. Maybe it does feel deep, slow. Maybe it feels shallow. And you just take a moment right here and right now to feel yourself, and maybe feel yourself a little more centered and perhaps a little more calm than you were a moment ago. And then open your eyes. We'll stop the music so that you can hear the poem that I'm going to be reading. Well, part of the poem, actually. It's from a book called Go In and In by one of my favorite poets, a woman named Danna Faulds. And this poem is called One. One. Within us lie the answers to our deepest questions and the antidote for all our fears. The divine is not an abstraction. It's as clear and intimate as a heartbeat or a whisper. So I love poetry. And poetry is something that's meant to be heard. It's meant to be read out loud, actually, not read silently. And of course, like great music, it gets better with repetition. The more you hear it, the more you know it, the more familiar you are with it, the more you can enjoy it. It's kind of like knowing yourself. The more you know yourself, the more you are going to, theoretically, be able to enjoy yourself. So self-awareness is extremely important, and breathing is one way that we can increase our self-awareness. When we are self-aware, we are going to be able to be wiser. So I wanted to talk to you today, obviously, about wisdom. And as you know, wisdom is good judgment, being able to use good judgment. So wisdom is also about discernment, being able to use your senses to perceive what's going on around you, what's happening in the situation, and to be able to discern or to distinguish separate parts. And I think that, some of the key elements in becoming wise and increasingly wise are knowing yourself and recognizing or being able to discern that you have a choice in a situation of how you're going to behave, how you're going to think, how you're going to react. So for me, I think of real life examples, right? So let's say, let's take a very specific example of how wisdom can play in our daily lives, right? So I'm sure we all can think of many examples where we have a choice about whether to step up or step back, right? And often in a situation where you have a choice to make of whether to step up or to step back, it's very, very important that you use discernment and you exercise your judgment, good judgment, hopefully your wisdom, and you make a choice for yourself that works well for you and in the situation. So we're going to roll with that one, stepping up versus stepping back. Perhaps when you're young, say 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe an example of knowing when to step up or step back would be when you're in class or in a morning gathering, when you're actually together at school and you get really enthusiastic and someone is talking and you want to share your story, they're sharing their story, and you think of something that happened to you and you get so excited and you just, can hardly contain yourself, right? And you want to, call on me. And it may be a moment where you decide you discern that it's that moment to step up and you want to share. Maybe you're a little nervous about sharing and you raise your hand and it's actually a moment to share. Maybe it's a moment where it's not time to share and you use your wisdom and exercise self-restraint and you don't raise your hand and you try to bring yourself back to center, and even though you're enthusiastic or fearful, based on whatever's going through your mind, that you choose wisely not to call out or even raise your hand, that you bring yourself back to a place where you're just listening actively and paying attention to what the other person is saying or what the other person is sharing. So that would be maybe an example for the youngest kids, knowing when to step up and when to step back. Maybe for students who are in the middle grades, I imagine a situation let's say on the playground, and something has happened, there's tension, or someone's been singled out, and you observe something that's happening that makes you uncomfortable, and you think it's not nice, or not kind, or not inclusive, and you recognize in that moment that you have a choice to make. You can either step up or step back. And again, it's not right, wrong, or good, bad. It's you're employing your wisdom to make a choice. You recognize that you have a choice. And so maybe you step up and you say, hey, guys, that's not nice. Quit it. Stop. Very uncool. Or maybe it's a situation that makes you more uncomfortable. You don't feel comfortable doing that, or you're worried about someone else's well-being. And again, you use your wisdom, you use your discernment, and you decide it's actually time to step back, not to intervene yourself, but maybe it's time to go get a grown-up and ask for help or support for the other person. So again, you get to choose, but you can't take action unless you recognize that there's a choice about what action to take, right? And grown-ups, I mean, we're all in this process, hopefully, lifelong process of learning and becoming more wise. And for grown-ups, you may think, well, grown-ups have it all figured out, or maybe you think grown-ups have nothing figured out. But the grown-ups in your lives have your best interest at heart, and your parents love you, your teachers are committed to you, and they want to help you. And they, like you, are trying to be wise and to do our best and to know when to step up and know when to step back. But we don't always get it right? And I'm sure you can all think of examples where you got frustrated with your parent and they're trying to help you and you're like, I got this, leave me alone, I want to do it myself, right? And it's frustrating because they're helping you too much. Maybe also there have been moments which you can recall, that you really wanted the person to step in, the adult, whoever was there, to step in and help you with something, and they didn't. They missed that moment, and you feel frustrated by not having been supported in that way. And you can recognize perhaps in some of those examples, if you can find them in your own lives, where the grown-up missed it, right? So we're none of us perfect, but that is what we're trying to do. And I can guarantee you as a parent and as a teacher that there are moments I have missed, and no doubt I will continue to miss, hopefully not too frequently, but from time to time. And that I am, like the other adults in your life and like you, working on evolving and becoming more wise over time through great experiences and successes and through my missteps. So I'm going to read part of that poem 1 to you again. I'm going to put on my glasses. I won't be squinting at the page. 1. Within us lie the answers to our deepest questions and the antidote for all our fears. The divine is not an abstraction. It's as clear and intimate as a heartbeat or a whisper. So when I think back to where we started this morning and listening to the sound current, listening to the Om, or if I'm sitting by the beach, those of you who've ever been near the ocean, listening to that sound of the waves as the water brushes against the sand, that helps me be calm. Becoming aware of my breath helps me be more centered, more aware. The more aware I am, the calmer I am, the more I'm able to slow my mind down, the more I'm going to be able to access my discernment and make wiser choices in the moment for myself and for others. And sometimes it's just as simple as that, slowing down just a little bit. Morning gathering, I encourage you to follow the breath. Follow your awareness of the breath. And sometimes, don't try to change it. Just become aware of it. And if you're feeling agitated or anxious, or you recognize that you have a decision to make, maybe just become aware of your breath. Maybe something that simple will help the moment shift. And when I think about wisdom, I think about 2 key elements, right? Knowing myself, knowing yourself, and recognizing that I have a choice, that there may be a choice to be made, right? And when I'm aware of my breath, I can access both those things. I can access my knowing of who I am, and I can access my discernment, and I can function more wisely. So that's my best advice for today. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day, wonderful rest of the week. And in closing, I'm going to read that part, the first part of the poem, one more time to you. 1. Within us lie the answers to our deepest questions and the antidote for all our fears. The divine is not an abstraction. It's as clear and intimate as a heartbeat or a whisper.